figures that my journey of self-discovery would take me to the attic. A very dear friend of mine made this especially for me. I miss her. Glad to see it's still intact. Oh, son of a bitch! Wait. I think I get it now.
Okay, jokes aside, I feel as though I can't tackle this book in the traditional structure as my previous book reviews because The Fourth Closet, at this point, has careened so far off the rails of the FNaF game's narrative, I can hardly even call it a Faz book anymore. It's 6 months after the harrowing events at the underground pizzeria. John is trying to pull himself together, deal with witnessing Charlie's apparent death, and navigate around the supposed imposter Charlie that's mysteriously appeared in his life. As the friends reunite and another suspicious pizzeria opens up in their town, the race is on to solve the looming mystery once and for all, and finally put years of entangled secrets to rest. I will say one thing about The Fourth Closet that I couldn't say about the other two. The pace has taken a turn for the reserved, almost the pensive. Characters and moments are allowed to unfurl, to fester. I was pleasantly surprised at this choice, as it allowed for some of the best moments in the trilogy to reveal themselves in The Fourth Closet. John's inner turmoil as he tries to adjust to a less than satisfying life with only a few macabre mementos of Charlie's as a reminder. Pretty much any scene with Afton in it, he's a much more chilling and dignified antagonist this time around. I was getting serious, like Mason Verger vibes from him, and the silent menace of hot Charlie actually got under my skin a few times. So yeah, for the first time in this trilogy, my nerves were a little racked. So I gotta give credit to The Fourth Closet where credit's due. Although there were still a few really stupid moments that did not sit well with me. For one, while I was pleased to see those creepy conversation bots make a comeback, the manner in which they play into the plot is just dumb. The protagonists take the earpieces the robots are using and reverse engineer them to make them completely invisible to the animatronics that Afton built. I could not bring myself to believe that that technology would have jumped from the little conversation bots Charlie was working on to the fully fledged super advanced robotics that Afton was building, especially one as like super futuristic as a hot Charlie. Charlie, you developed a way to make human beings invisible to the most advanced AI the world has ever seen. Why aren't you selling this technology to the United States military or something like that? It's like Plankton inventing all these technological breakthroughs just to steal the Krabby Patty formula. I mean, I think your priorities are misplaced, girl. Then again, I could be asking Afton the same question. Also, if hot Charlie's going around murdering everyone in real Charlie's life, then why didn't she ensure that Clayton was fully dead? I mean, she literally ripped the guts out of Aunt Jen, but the guy who was taking photographic proof that you're actually a robot and not a real person, you didn't make sure he was dead? It's just, things like that could have been thought through a lot better, but hey, it's young adult. It's not like anyone has to give a shit. The climax, again, also really annoyed me. Granted, it was a dual climax this time, with the infinitely better paced and structured big reveal between Hot Charlie and Real Charlie being one of the novel's highlights. But the other part, where Carlton, Marla, and Jessica have to rescue the kidnapped children from a Circus Baby's pizza, suffered a very familiar pitfall. It was similar to the Twisted ones, where they just seem to throw everything at you with no rhyme or reason, but the actual writing, the actual writing structure did not sit well with me. If you watched my On Stranger Tides book review, you know that one of my biggest pet peeves in writing is when intense action scenes are just pages upon pages of unbroken walls of text. No, I don't know if I can call this bad writing or not, but when I read or write action, I really like using paragraph breaks, ellipses, em dashes to simulate the kind of segmented, punchy nature of an action scene. Not only does it provide a visceral syntactic change of pace for the reader, but for me personally, it helps me better understand what the hell's going on. Call it a personal preference, but I really do wish that more books would utilize those tactics. And now we get to the part of this trilogy that everyone seems to remember. Charlie is a robot. The third in a series of 4 with the sort of half Charlie, half Elizabeth Afton, half circus baby thing, supposed to be the 4th in the series.
We now return to tonight's Creepy Time Theater presentation of Night of the Robot.
Are you kidding me? She was a robot this whole time? What head-scrambled lunatic thought that up? You call this a twist? More like twisted my balls off. I'm convinced that Scott Cawthon's brain is just a giant sewer rat trapped in a birdcage, jumping around with this cacophonous rattle and...
Now, if you remember from my Twisted Ones review, I said that I thought I remembered the twist from Matt Pat's videos, and yeah, I was right. Somewhat. There's actually a possessed doll that's been given sentience from just the extreme emotional turmoil that was literally poured into it from Henry that's been placed into each incarnation of Charlie. I actually thought that was kind of clever. And let's not pretend this wasn't foreshadowed in the books. The two big things that stuck out to me were like kind of the impressions of the tripod mentioned in the Silver Eyes that Charlie saw that were later used to kind of film her memories. And the other thing was the fake blood they found in the pizzeria that they supposed belonged to Afton, but actually wasn't his. It was Charlie's. So this was planned from the beginning. Let's not pretend it was something that Scott Cawthon just pulled out of his ass. However, there exist 3 major issues. 1. The silver-eyed animatronic mentioned in the Silver Eyes was very explicitly stated to be Foxy. But in the 4th closet, it's revealed that it was actually Charlie 4, aka Circus Baby Hot Charlie. The text is very clear that it's supposed to be Foxy, but in the 4th closet, it's explained away as Charlie simply misremembering. Many readers went to accuse Cawthon of retconning his own trilogy, and honestly, I don't blame them. If this was a genuine mistake on either his or Breed Risley's part, then yeah, that's a very sloppy and shallow way to try and rectify it. But if it was the plan all along...
I'm convinced that Scott Cawthon's brain is just a giant sewer rat.
2. The broader question as to whether such advanced AI and robotic technology belongs in Five Nights at Freddy's in the first place. Now, I know it's ironic coming from me, questioning what does or doesn't belong in FNaF, but the point I'm making is that despite the Silver Eyes and the Twisted Ones deviating from the games on a narrative level, they still coincided with them on a scale of believability or what we knew could be accomplished within the confines of the franchise. So despite the foreshadowing, this inclusion of robots that would have made Neander Wallace jealous felt to many like the tonal equivalent of getting dipped in a vat of acid. I don't think I have a right answer to this. What I can say is that I think it depends on how much you want the Faz books to connect to the games. I don't see the books as very connected to the games at all, and this was just indicative of the trilogy's like ludicrous attempts to try and become its own thing. Besides, it still tied in with greater themes of memory and emotion, especially considering that the heart of it all was still ghosts and possessions, so it didn't offend me as much as I thought it would. You're off the hook this time. 3, and perhaps most glaring, is that the impact of this twist is given no time to breathe. Charlie has no moments of self-reflection after this. She just winds up murder-suiciding Baby like 3 minutes later. And none of the other characters learn that she's a robot or deal with the implications themselves. In a franchise where themes of souls and putting life in the lifeless are front and center, for the 4th closet, this just felt like a massive wasted opportunity. The book honestly could have benefited from another like 30 pages just dealing with the fallout of this twist. This isn't a personal preference thing anymore. This is just bad writing. But one other burning question remains. How does this book connect to the games? Well, Funtime Freddy's there, which kinda sorta not really busts what I said in the Twisted ones. Also Funtime Mangle, I guess, is there too. And don't even get me started on Circus Baby. You can just watch MatPat for that one. Now the big thing this book introduces is Remnant. While it doesn't name drop it, it's basically like molten soul juice that can be injected into like electronics and bodies to kind of transfer the memories and pains of the recently deceased. It's a driving factor in both Sister Location and FNaF 6 and comes to define the sort of a supernatural spirit of this franchise. So that's one really cool thing the book has going for it. So yeah, while the fourth closet offers some of my favorite moments in the trilogy, it still suffers from the same YA stupidity and story problems we've seen in the past. I'm just glad we could end the trilogy on a high-ish note, at least compared to the Twisted ones. Now, just to make this video longer, my thoughts on the trilogy as a whole. I gotta be honest, I commend Scott Cawthon for taking a risk and telling a story that would piss off a lot of his fans. I know a lot of people were expecting to read these books, expecting answers to their lore questions, but instead all they got was a whole extra narrative to have to dissect. I mean, really though, what else do you expect from this guy? And kudos to Kira Breed Risley for managing to string this story together into a fairly cohesive experience. It could not have been easy, especially with this guy. That said, the experience as a whole is just too variable in quality to fully enjoy. The character highlights and the well-done moments cannot make up for the young adult stupidity and poor story decisions that run throughout. The idea of a divergent canon is a good one, and I think if the books were redone into a more focused, like thriller horror kind of tone, I guess, I think the potential for greatness would have been much better. Side note, I hope that's what the upcoming FNaF movie does. It would be a bad idea to turn it into a lore dump, to try and completely represent the lore instead of work with it, rather. I don't regret reading this trilogy, though. I mean, I like Five Nights at Freddy's, and it was cool to read like an official book saga associated with them. Now, will I read the other books in the series, like the Fazbear Frights or Tales of the Pizzaplex? Maybe. If these videos get enough views. Sorry, I gotta eat too, you know. I understand why the Five Nights at Freddy's books are appearing in my past. Ever since my security breach video took off, my legacy, my life has become Five Nights at Freddy's. I'm faced with a crossroads now. Do I keep making FNaF content, embrace the madness, or make the content I want what's right in my heart?